then shoved a wet wipe down his daughter's throat. On May 28th of 2021, deputies rushed to 30-year-old Joseph Napier's home in Vero Beach, Florida, for a report of an unresponsive baby. First responders attempted CPR on 2-month-old Iris, who was turning blue, before taking her into an ambulance and transporting her to the hospital. Despite all life-saving efforts, 2-month-old Iris did die. During the investigation, Joseph told investigators that his daughter was choking and he could only see a small white object in the back of her mouth. Joseph then claimed he left Iris on the couch unattended with her 18-month-old sister for about 10 minutes. He claims when he got back to the living room area, he saw that Iris was choking and in distress, but he still waited 5 minutes before calling 911. During an exam of Iris, a wet wipe was removed deep within her throat. This is what caused fatal airway destruction. The sheriff's office concluded that the only person who could have done this that was present was Joseph. Joseph kept putting the blame on the 18-month-old. The wipe was so deep into Iris's throat that the doctor had to use forceps to get it out. Iris's grandfather had left her with Joseph so that he could go to work that day, and while he was getting ready for work, he could already hear Joseph yelling at Iris. He recalls Joseph saying, "Why can't you just shut the F up?" to Iris. Joseph was charged with aggravated manslaughter of a child and is currently being held at the Indian River County Jail on a $750,000 bond.
This 101-year-old man was just sentenced to 5 years in prison. What was his crime, you ask? Assisting in 3,518 murders. You see, he was a guard at a Nazi concentration camp during World War II, and due to a 2011 court ruling, he can now be prosecuted for his actions. And this isn't the first instance of former Nazis being prosecuted. What do you think? Should these elderly people be prosecuted like this?
This is Cynthia Vigil. She was kidnapped and held captive for 3 days in 1999 by the Toy Box Killer. The Toy Box Killer kidnapped and tortured her, as well as 60 other women that we know about. However, Cynthia is one out of just 3 survivors, and she is the last known victim of the Toy Box Killer. She was held with no food, no water, and was assaulted many, many times every day. The horrors he inflicted on her are unimaginable, and every single photo that I tried to find of his toy box, I couldn't show on TikTok because of some of the instruments he would use. Cynthia only escaped because the Toy Box Killer's wife was distracted on the phone. When she came back in the room, Cynthia hit her in the head with a lamp. Cynthia was able to run out of the trailer wearing only a dog collar and chains and alerted the police. David Parker Ray, the Toy Box Killer, as well as his wife, Cindy Hendy, were both arrested and sentenced.
The footage begins with Mary unloading antiques into her storage unit, and then she leaves to go to the office. While she's gone, the owner of the orange truck walks into her storage unit and waits for her to return. When Mary enters her storage, the door is closed behind her. After several minutes, only the man exits the building. He then cleans up Mary's belongings and drives her vehicle away. When he returns, he goes back into her storage and comes out with 2 large trash cans, and he puts them into his own storage.
Tiptoe by the window, that is where all become tiptoe.
This guy has probably stolen money from you, but when you find out what he did with it, you'll be glad that he did. His name is Hamza Bundalaj, and he is one of the most ruthless hackers the world has ever seen. He was living in his mom's basement in New York when he decided to attempt something no man had ever done. He hacked into 217 banks and 60 million bank accounts. Just to put that into perspective, that's over 18% of the US population. Him and his friend got away with $4 billion in a matter of months. But you see, there's a reason why they're smiling, and you won't believe what they did with the money. They donated over $280 million to charities in Africa and Palestine. However, they were still sentenced to 15 years in prison.
When Mary Vincent finally reaches vehicles, the first car that she tries to wave down ignores her. At this point, she's naked, has no hands, and is covered from head to toe in blood. Luckily for her, a young couple who are on their honeymoon and happen to be lost on this empty road stop and take her to the hospital. She had lost over half of the blood in her entire body and was not expected to live, but she did. She was able to give the police such a good description of Lawrence and his van that it took virtually no time for him to get caught. Mary testified at his trial, but for some reason he was only given a 14-year sentence. This was the maximum in California at the time. At the hearing, the last thing that Lawrence said to her as she walked past him was that he promised that if the last thing he ever did was this, he would finish the job, i.e., kill her. Lawrence only served 8 years of his prison term.
Teacher comes to work looking like this every day. Parents become furious. Part 2. After the teacher walked out of the principal's office, she had tears running down her face. She was crying because the principal told her that the parents had been complaining about how distracting her body is. The parents said that the way she dressed was distracting to the kids. Because of this, the teacher was let go by the school. However, it was not over. She did not give up without a fight. She actually sued the school for wrongful termination and discrimination based on her body.
Breaking news! Mexico kidnappings. The bodies of 6 teenagers have been discovered at a ranch in a remote area of Mexico, along with a lone badly injured survivor. It comes after the 7 were abducted over the weekend. The grisly discovery was made in the north-central state of Zacatecas. Prosecutors said the survivor suffered serious head wounds but is in a stable condition. Officials have not formally identified the dead youths, but government sources have revealed the bodies belong to the missing boys. The teenagers, who were aged 14 to 18, were staying at the remote ranch enjoying a family weekend away when several vehicles loaded with armed men broke in at around 4 a.m. on Sunday. The boys were spirited away only for their bodies to be later found. Following the abduction, a massive search operation was launched by Mexican authorities that included 300 soldiers from the Secretariat of National Defense, the National Guard, and police officers from across Villanueva, the area where the crime took place. The bodies will now be removed from the roadless site and brought to the state capitol for identification. Law enforcement were pressured by angry families of the missing boys who carried out protests demanding their loved ones be found.
We need everyone to help us, please. I'm sorry, I'm so emotional.
Shein RICO is in Jerusalem for us tonight.
The 2 survivors in the Brian Kohberger case were actually awake and texting at the time of the crime. Kaylee's father allegedly received this information from a member of the grand jury. It stated that Steve had been told that the 2 survivors allegedly had not only been awake while the killings had taken place, but they heard everything. And that more astonishingly, his grand jury sources alleged that the 2 girls had been texting one another as the murderer methodically went from one room to the next. One of the roommates actually awoke from noises at 4 a.m., but she said that she believed that it was just Kaylee playing with her dog. She also believes she heard Kaylee say that there's someone here, and crying from another victim's room, along with a male saying, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." And when she opened the door, she saw a masked man in dark clothes with bushy eyebrows leaving through the rear sliding door. And according to court documents, he walked right by her and out the door after he committed the crime. The court issued a restrictive gag order on the case, and the family is saying that this is a very poor attempt at getting attention and it's obviously fictional. I'll keep you guys updated and follow for more news.
This 4th grade teacher is claiming she is pregnant by a former student. This is 38-year-old Alyssa McCommon, and she was a teacher who taught English language arts and social studies at Charter Academy in Covington, Tennessee. On August 24th of this year, she was suspended from her position when a parent came forward with some allegations. Alyssa is accused of sending nude images to students and asking if they wanted to have sex with her. On September 8th, Alyssa was arrested and charged with SAing a 12-year-old boy. She also inappropriately contacted other young boys by playing video games with them or by contacting them over social media. Alyssa was then released on a $25,000 bond, and she had to refrain from contacting that alleged victim or any other minors besides her own children. Alyssa pleaded not guilty. September 28th, Alyssa was re-arrested after stalking and harassing the alleged victim via text, and she basically told him that he was going to regret going to the authorities. In a series of text messages, she says, "I have to tell you something that is huge and serious that deals with you." The second text says, "This was a mistake. This is my burden." And the final text says, "OMG, please delete this number. Do not get me in trouble." The victim and his mom reported this to the police, and that's when the police arranged a phone conversation between him and Alyssa to be recorded secretly. In court, they are playing that phone call that was taped, and Alyssa was the one who made the phone call to the victim. She's telling him that she is pregnant and he is the father of the baby. His bond was revoked and she is scheduled to go back to court on November 27th for a preliminary hearing.
Shein caught a RICO charge? Shein, the fast fashion company. You know the one you recently saw those influencers travel all the way to China to like walk around that warehouse and that factory, be like, "Oh, Shein's so ethical. This is the best way to do fast fashion. Look, they have so many women employees here at this sweatshop." That organization is being charged with a RICO violation through a lawsuit. RICO stands for Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations. That is a charge that was originally created to combat the mafia, is now being used against Shein. Basically, a bunch of independent artists are suing Shein because so much of their artwork and designs have been stolen and then sold through Shein. And they are alleging that Shein has created an organization of shell companies that in a way no one can sue because the entire organization of the business is fucking corrupt. So basically, they have shell company A sitting all the way over here, and they steal the design. And then they partner with shell company B. Shell company B makes it. Shell company B sells it to shell company C. Shell company C then markets it to shell company D. Shell company D then sells it to Shein, and then Shein puts it on the internet to sell to you. Their lawsuit alleges that all of that is Shein. All of it. So yes, what do Shein and the mafia have in common? The fucking RICO Act of 1970, baby. Also, this is a test to see if my uploads work again, so please comment if you can see this.
If you are still so delusional and think that Megan Thee Stallion is lying and that Tory Lanez did not shoot her, oh my god, you need to see the new photos that were released from the crime scene and of Megan's foot. We've seen this photo before of the police helicopter view of Megan leaving a trail of blood and Tory and Kelsey on the ground, but we never saw what was inside the car, and holy shit. Here's the photo of where Megan was sitting in the car that she was forced to get back into with Tory. Pools of blood, towels. She was dripping, pouring blood. It's on the suitcase in the middle, on the seats. This is the backseat of their SUV. Tory shot while he was reaching over the top of this door. I'm surprised he could even reach it. I hope that one moment of appeasing his ego and feeling like this big bad tough guy was worth it. Here's the hot gun that Tory used. And the x-ray of her foot showing the literal holes it put in her foot that will give her nerve damage forever. And you guys still believe the fake blog post that Tory Lanez paid to say, "Oh, there wasn't bullet fragments in her foot. He was found not guilty." I would unfollow No Jumper, unless you want to know wrong things going on in the world forever. Before I show you the last photo, make sure you follow so you can be a student here at Pop Culture University and always learn what's going on in pop culture with Professor Patty. Different versions of this photo have been online before, but the photo of Megan's foot at the doctor's, I don't know how long I can show it. Pause if you want to see it. He'll be sentenced up to 23 years on January 27th, and I hope his New Year's resolution of not dropping the soap is going really well. I hope Drake makes time in between his Instagram photo shoots to apologize to Megan, and it's not too late to apologize yourself.
Hoje eu quero relembrar aqui com vocês um caso horrível, o caso das irmãs Yoshifusa. Aconteceu aqui no Brasil, mais especificamente em Mogi das Cruzes, em São Paulo. Bom, essa aqui é a Renata, ela tinha 21 anos quando tudo aconteceu, e essa daqui é a Roberta, que tinha 16. Elas eram filhas de Rita e Nelson Yoshifusa, uma família de classe média alta que vivia em um condomínio fechado em Mogi das Cruzes, em São Paulo. Na casa dessa família trabalhava um homem chamado Antônio Rodrigues. Ele era tipo um faz-tudo, ele cuidava do jardim, da pintura, das instalações da casa. Ele trabalhava na casa há mais de 15 anos e, de acordo com o Nelson, era um homem de confiança. Ele viu a Renata e a Roberta crescerem. Bom, no dia 11 de novembro de 2011, o Nelson saiu à noite com a esposa e pediu que Antônio ficasse com as filhas. Ele falou para Antônio cuidar das meninas até ele voltar. A Renata, a mais velha, estava estudando no sofá da sala, quando de repente ela viu o Antônio assistindo pornografia no computador da família. Então ela confrontou ele ficou muito chateado e ele foi para cima dela e tentou estuprá-la. Mas como ele não conseguiu, ele ficou mais chateado ainda, então ele correu até a cozinha, pegou uma faca e golpeou a Renata diversas vezes. A Roberta estava no andar de cima, ouvindo música, quando ela percebeu um barulho estranho e ela desceu. E aí ela se deparou com o corpo da sua irmã e com o Antônio segurando uma faca. Ela tentou fugir, mas ele conseguiu alcançá-la e golpeou ela também. Depois ele arrastou a Roberta até a cozinha, onde a violentou sexualmente. Quando Nelson chegou em casa, ele se deparou com o Antônio ferido e ensanguentado. Ele perguntou o que houve e o Antônio disse para ele ir lá dentro ver as meninas. E quando Nelson entrou, se deparou com uma cena triste e dolorosa. As meninas estavam semi-nuas e uma estava na mesa da cozinha e a outra estava no chão. O Antônio disse ao pai das meninas que havia sido um assaltante que tinha invadido a casa, mas essa história não convenceu a polícia, pois nada da casa havia sido levado. Ele foi levado para a delegacia para dar o depoimento dele, mas quando ele viu uma foto das meninas, ele começou a chorar e acabou confessando o crime. Ele disse que com o passar dos anos ele foi alimentando desejos pelas meninas e quando tentou ter algo com Renata e ela o rejeitou, ele acabou perdendo a cabeça e decidiu acabar com a vida delas. O Antônio foi preso, julgado e sentenciado a 57 anos de prisão.
Now that we do know they were not asleep and they were actually texting each other and did hear everything that went on, makes it a little bit more odd looking at this visual of where everybody was at and then to think about how nobody called the cops for 8 hours.
We've learned Dylan was sleeping here on the second floor, along with Xana and Ethan located here. Kaylee and Madison were located here on the 3rd floor. The dog was located on the 3rd floor and the room by itself. Let's move around and see through the walls, into the kitchen, to the back slider, and take a look at the time frames. At 4:04 a.m., the suspect can be seen trying to park his car. At 4:09, approximately 5 minutes later, he enters the house through the back slider. At 4:18, he leaves the house after committing the crimes. At 4:20, he's caught on camera driving away at a high rate of speed. All of this only took 9 minutes. Let's watch what that looks like. The suspect enters through the back sliding door. The first bedroom he stops at and opens the door, he sees no one there. He continues to the next bedroom. Here we know what happens. Downstairs, Dylan is sleeping. The noise from upstairs wakes her up. She thinks it's Kaylee playing with her dog. She gets up and goes to the door and looks out. She sees nothing there. The suspect then continues down the stairs about 3 minutes later. He then heads to Xana's room. Outside there's a security camera picking up some whimpering, cries, and a thud at 4:17. We've learned that Xana was found on the floor, which might explain the thud. Dylan again hears something and looks outside her door. She sees the suspect. He walks right past her and leaves.
That's what it is.
We'll go back on the record.
I just met this attorney the other day.
That's fine. So here, yeah. So okay,
I came and took my cell phones yesterday, and they came and took all my property out my cell today.
Mr. Williams, I'm the judge in the matter. Shut your mouth, and I'll tell you when you can talk. You got it? It's the same rules we played by while we were here in trial, every time we were here for a pretrial. So just follow the same rules. Fair enough? So at this point, I'm going to hear from your lawyers, and that means zip it.
But you're not letting me
That means
what's going on.
Zip it right now.
You trying to?
Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't.
No. Does the comment quit talking? Do you understand that?
Because you're trying to take my life.
No.
And you're not letting me tell you what's going on.
Take your life for what? What do you mean your
It's
life?
not fair. You're trying to take my life.
What does that mean?
On the document.
Again, I'm going to interrupt. Mr. Williams, listen to me. If we have to, I will gag you in 1 second. So listen, you will get a chance to talk. I'm gonna gag you in 1 second, so just listen to me. Zip it until I give you a chance to talk. You'll get a chance to talk. I am gonna give you a chance to talk. Here it is again. So you said to me you understand this comment. Zip it. Right now.
And don't you let it play about me getting shackled on the bus for a whole week. Let that play.
Mr. Williams will...
Mr. Williams, be very simple to gag you. You'll get a chance to speak. So tell me.
Black women just walked in here.
Okay,
so I have not been around.
Let's go back.
Peers.
Zip it. Anything you want to add to your insanity? And the jury came back with a verdict.
That's a violation of the HIPAA law, Judge.
Here we go. I'm going to tape it, and then I'll unzip it when I want you to talk. Because the young lady over here can't take down everything. You know how this works. We've been in the courtroom at least 50 times as we prepared for trial. I'll give him a chance to speak, it says.
Take me out.
No, I'd like you to speak.
Mr. Williams, I want to make it real clear. If you spit on, attempt to bite, or injure any of my deputies, you're going to have a bad day.
None of that.
Oh, you
Put
clear?
the tape on me, man. We done with this shit. Here's what it is.
We'll go back on the record. Mr. Williams will have a chance to speak.
And I'll be monitoring everything I say.
Go ahead.